Carol, I need you to listen to me. Get on the floor beside him. Put the heel of your hand in the center of his chest. Push down hard. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Her parents flew to Italy for vacation with her brother while she lay dying in hospital. Didn't know who came every night. The call came in at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. A woman named Carol, somewhere on the east side of the city, was screaming into her phone that her husband had stopped breathing. Alara heard the terror in her voice, that specific pitch, high and jagged, the kind that means someone is watching the person they love leave this world in real time. Alara had heard that pitch hundreds of times. She knew exactly what to do with it. She kept her voice level, calm, the way still water looks right before a storm. Carol, I need you to listen to me. Get on the floor beside him. Put the heel of your hand in the center of his chest. Push down hard. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alara's left hand was typing the address into the dispatch system. Her right hand was pressed flat against the desk. The fluorescent lights above her hummed the way they always did, indifferent, buzzing, eternal. The room smelled like burnt coffee and the dry cold of an air conditioner that had not been serviced in years. Around her, other dispatchers were taking other calls, other emergencies, other lives hanging by thin threads. This was her world. She had built her entire existence inside it. 5, 6, 7. Keep going, Carol, you are doing great. Help is on the way. And that is when Alara felt it. Not a pain exactly, more like a door swinging open inside her chest, a hollow, dropping sensation, as if something that had been held very tightly for a very long time had finally let go. Her fingers went cold. The room tilted. The sound of Carol counting compressions began to blur at the edges, like a radio signal losing its frequency. Alara pressed her hand harder against the desk. She told herself it was nothing. Fatigue, dehydration. She had not eaten a real meal since Sunday. She had worked a double on Saturday, covered Marcus's shift on Monday, and before that she had wired $400 to her mother because the electricity bill was overdue, and her mother had called 3 times in 1 hour until Alara picked up. She told herself she was fine. She was not fine. 8, 9, 10. The headset hit the floor before she did. She did not remember falling. She only remembered the sound of her own name, distant and panicked, coming from somewhere above her. She remembered the cold of the floor against her cheek. She remembered thinking, with total absurd clarity, that she needed to make sure Carol kept counting. Then there was nothing. Alara was 29 years old. She had been working since she was 17. In those 12 years, she had quietly, steadily, without anyone ever asking her directly, become the financial spine of her entire family. It had not happened all at once. It never does. It had happened the way water carves rock, slowly, drop by drop, each one so small you barely notice until one day you look down and realize you have been hollowed out. Started with her father's hospital bills when she was 22, then her mother's car, then Logan's college application fees, then his first semester, then his second. There were always reasons. There was always a new emergency, a new shortfall, a new phone call with that particular silence on the other end, the silence that meant they were waiting for her to offer. And she always did, because she had been taught since childhood that love looked like sacrifice, and sacrifice looked like never saying no. Over 5 years, Alara had given her family more than $90,000. She had not taken a vacation in 4 years. She ate lunch at her desk. She drove a car with a cracked windshield she kept meaning to fix and never did. She had a savings account that she checked sometimes, the way you check on something you gave up hopping for, just to confirm it was still mostly empty. She had never once been thanked, not in a way that meant anything. She had received birthday texts. She had received the occasional Sunday dinner invitation when her mother was in a good mood. She had received Logan's snide comments about how she always made things about money, when she had gently mentioned once, just once, that she was stretched thin. What she had never received was a single person in that family asking if she was okay. So when the arrhythmia hit, when her heart, overworked and underfed and carrying years of grief it had never been allowed to name, finally misfired, no one was entirely surprised except Alara herself. She woke up in the ICU with tubes in her arm and a machine breathing numbers at her from the left side of the bed. The light was pale and institutional. There was a chair beside her bed. It was empty. A nurse named Donna told her she had been unconscious for nearly 9 hours, told her the arrhythmia was serious, told her she needed rest, real rest, not dispatcher rest, and that someone from her family had been notified. Alara looked at the empty chair. "Did they come?" she asked. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Donna's pause was only a half-second long, but Alara had spent 12 years listening for the things people did not say. She heard it. "They stopped by earlier," Donna said carefully, "for a little while." 20 minutes, she would learn later. They had stayed 20 minutes. Her mother had spoken to a doctor. Her father had stood near the door with his hands in his pockets. Logan had not come inside at all. Then they had left because Logan had a competition, and the flights were already booked, and the doctor had said she was stable, as if stable meant fine, as if a heart that had given out was just a minor inconvenience to schedule around. They had gone to Italy. Alara lay in the hospital bed and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then she reached for her phone with the arm that did not have the IV in it. She opened her mother's Instagram. The most recent post was from 6 hours ago. A photograph of the Amalfi Coast at golden hour. Her mother in a white linen blouse, laughing, her head thrown back. Below her, in the comments, someone had written, "You deserve this trip so much." The next photo was Logan on a boat, sunglasses on, holding a glass of something sparkling, grinning the way he always grinned, like the world was built specifically for his enjoyment. Alara set the phone face down, on the blanket beside her. The machine on her left kept breathing its numbers. The IV dripped. The room was very quiet. For the first time in 5 years, nobody needed anything from her. She was not sure, yet, whether that felt like freedom or like falling. The second night, Alara could not sleep. That was not unusual. She had not slept well in years, not since the dispatching started, not since the money started flowing out of her account like water through a crack she could never quite seal. But this was a different kind of wakeful. This was the silence of a room with no obligations in it. No phone ringing. No one needing anything. Just the soft mechanical exhale of the monitors and the faint squeak of nurse shoes passing in the hallway outside. She lay there and stared at the glass door. It was the kind of door that was not really a door, more of a wall made of glass, so the nurses could see you at all times without coming in. Privacy theater, she thought, the illusion of a room while you remained on display. She understood that. She had lived most of her adult life the same way, performing okayness for an audience that never looked too closely. She was watching the door when she saw the shadow. It was not dramatic. It was not a silhouette from a movie. It was just a shape, a man, seated in the chair just outside her glass wall, leaning forward slightly, elbows on his knees. Still, like someone who had learned a long time ago how to wait without fidgeting. Alara blinked, looked at the clock on the monitor, 2:14 a.m. She watched him for a while. He did not move. He did not look at his phone. He did not pace or shift or do any of the things people do when they are uncomfortable. He just sat there, in the thin light of the ICU hallway, like he had nowhere else in the world to be. She fell asleep before she found out who he was. In the morning, she asked Donna. Donna was changing the IV bag, her movements quick and practiced, and she did not answer right away. That half-second pause again, the one that said more than the words that followed. "He was here again last night," Donna said, finally. "He's been here every night since you came in." Alara frowned. "Who is he?" "His name is Ethan Vale." Donna smoothed the tape on Alara's arm and looked at her steadily. "He always sits outside, never asks to come in, just sits there until about 4 in the morning and then leaves." She paused again. "He also took care of your bill, paid it in full, 2 days ago." The room was quiet for a moment. Alara's hospital bill, at that point, was somewhere north of $40,000. She knew this because the financial counselor had come by on day one with a clipboard and a sympathetic expression, and Alara had lain there doing the math in her head the way she always did, calculating what she would have to cut, what she would have to defer, how many extra shifts it would take to crawl back to zero. Someone had paid it, all of it, in cash. "Does he know me?" Alara asked. Donna looked at her in a way that was careful and kind at the same time. "He says he does." She asked to see him. He came in that afternoon. He was tall, somewhere in his late 50s, with the kind of face that had lived through things not hard exactly, but weathered. Like wood that had been rained on for a long time and was stronger for it. He wore a plain gray shirt. His hands, when he pulled the chair close and sat down, were steady. He looked at her the way you look at something you were afraid you might never see again. He did not smile. He did not perform warmth. He just sat there and looked at her, and somehow that was more comforting than anything her family had done in years. "You didn't have to pay my bill," Alara said. "I know," he said. His voice was low and even. "I wanted to." She studied him. There was something about his face that pulled at her, a familiarity she could not locate, like a word sitting at the edge of her tongue. The line of his jaw. The way he held stillness like it was a choice he had made deliberately, long ago. "Why?" she asked. "You don't know me." He was quiet for a moment. Not the kind of quiet that meant he was avoiding the question. The kind that meant he was deciding how much truth to give her at once. "I know more about you than you think," he said. "I've known about you for a long time." He looked down at his hands, then back up at her. "I should have been here sooner. She made sure I wasn't." Alara felt something shift in her chest. Not the arrhythmia, something else. Something older. "What does that mean?" she asked, though her voice had gone very quiet. He told her. He told her slowly, without drama, without cruelty, the way you tell someone something that is going to change everything, carefully, like you are handling something that can break. He told her about a woman he had loved 30 years ago, about a pregnancy her mother had never disclosed to him, about years of silence, of blocked numbers, of legal threats and closed doors, about the moment, 6 months ago, when a mutual contact had finally handed him a name and a photograph. About standing outside a hospital glass door every night for a week because he did not know if he was allowed to walk through it, but he could not bring himself to leave. Alara did not cry. She had spent years crying in private, in car parks, in bathroom stalls at work, in the dark of her apartment after wiring money she could not afford to people who never once asked how she was doing. She had used up a lot of tears on things that were not worth them. She looked at Ethan Vale, this stranger with her jaw and her stillness, and she felt something she had not felt in so long she almost did not recognize it. She felt like someone had finally shown up. She nodded, slowly, just once, like a woman confirming something she had always quietly suspected but never let herself believe. Outside the window, the afternoon light was long and pale. The monitor breathed its steady numbers, and for the first time since she had woken up in that room alone, Alara did not feel like she was disappearing. They came back on a Thursday. Alara knew they were coming before they walked through the door. Donna had warned her, quietly, the way she did everything, with that steady nurse calm that Alara had come to appreciate more than she could say. "Your mother called the front desk this morning," Donna told her. "Said she was on her way and wanted the discharge paperwork ready." "Not how is she, not can I speak to her doctor. Discharge paperwork." Alara had nodded and asked Donna to let Ethan know. She was sitting up in the bed when they arrived. She had combed her hair. She had asked for her own clothes the day before, and she was wearing them, a plain navy shirt and gray pants, nothing dramatic, nothing costumed. She looked like herself. That was the point. Her mother came in first. She was tanned, the warm bronze tan of a woman who had spent real time in real sun, and she was wearing the kind of effortless white blouse that people buy specifically for European vacations. She smelled like expensive sunscreen and the faint trace of a perfume Alara had known her whole life. Behind her came Alara's father, quieter, hands in his pockets the way he always stood when he was waiting to see which way the wind blew. Logan did not come in at all. He was in the hallway. Alara could see him through the glass, looking at his phone. Her mother's eyes swept the room the way they always did, assessing, cataloging, landing last on Alara herself with an expression that was performing concern while calculating something else entirely. "Baby," she said and opened her arms. "You had us so scared." Ilara did not move toward her. Her mother's arms lowered slowly. Something flickered across her face, confusion first, then the early shadow of irritation. She was not used to stillness where there should have been relief. "Where are the discharge papers?" her mother asked. "I called ahead. They said you were being released today." "I am," Ilara said. And that was when Ethan stepped through the doorway. He did not do it with theatrics. He simply came in from the hallway and stood near the door, calm and solid, the way a wall is solid. He looked at Ilara's mother with the measured expression of a man who had been waiting a very long time for a moment and had decided not to waste it on noise. The color left her mother's face so completely and so quickly that it was almost hard to watch. Almost. Her lips parted. Her hand, which had been reaching toward the bed rail, stopped in midair and stayed there. She knew exactly who he was. That, more than anything, told Ilara everything she had needed to confirm. Because if he had truly been a stranger, if her mother's 30-year-old story had been true, if there had been nothing to hide, there would have been confusion. There would have been a polite, baffled question. "Who are you?" There was none of that. There was only the face of a woman who had kept a secret for 3 decades and was watching it walk into the room wearing a gray shirt. "I'm here for my daughter," Ethan said, quiet, certain, final. Her father made a sound in the back of his throat. Her mother turned to Ilara with the specific expression she had deployed Ilara's entire life, the wounded pivot, the maternal hurt designed to make the other person feel like the one causing damage. "Ilara," she said, and her voice had that familiar pull in it. "What is this? What did you do?" Ilara reached for her phone on the bedside table. She opened her banking app. She had done this part 4 days ago, the morning after Ethan had told her the truth, when she was still lying in this bed with an IV in her arm and a heart that was only just remembering how to beat evenly. She had made the calls. She had sent the emails. She had spoken to the hospital's patient services office and the legal department with the same voice she used when everything was on fire and someone had to stay steady, clear, methodical, unhurried. She turned the phone screen toward her mother. "Every automatic payment to your accounts," Ilara said, "is canceled, every transfer, every backup card attached to your bills, all of it, closed." She kept her voice even, not cold exactly, just clean, the way air feels after rain. "You were also removed as my emergency contact 3 days ago." Her mother stared at the screen, then at Ilara, then back at the screen as if looking long enough might change the numbers. "After everything I have done for you," her mother said, and her voice shifted into that lower register, the one meant to carry the full weight of every sacrifice, real or invented, stretching back to childhood. "After everything this family has been through." "I almost died," Ilara said. Just that, no heat in it. No accusation dressed up as a question. Just the plain, unadorned fact set down between them like an object on a table. "I almost died," she said again, "and you posted a sunset." The room was very quiet. Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it. In the hallway, Logan had looked up from his phone. Her father was staring at the floor. Ilara swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet found the floor. She was still a little unsteady. The doctors had been clear about that, said it would take time, but she stood. She stood and she picked up the small bag Donna had helped her pack that morning, and she looked at her mother one last time. She did not feel rage. She had expected to. She had braced for it, the hot, flooding anger of someone who had finally run out of patience. But what she felt was quieter than that. It was the particular piece of a person who has made a decision and is done explaining it. She walked to the door. Ethan moved aside to let her through and then fell into step beside her, and they walked together down the hallway, past the nurse's station, where Donna raised one hand in a small, warm goodbye, past the elevator, through the sliding glass doors and out into the open air. It was a mild afternoon. The sky was the pale blue of early autumn. There was a breeze that smelled like cut grass and the distant exhaust of passing cars, and Ilara stood on the pavement outside the hospital and took a breath. A real breath, the kind that reached the bottom of her lungs. She had not taken one of those in 5 years. She did not know yet what came next. She did not have a map for any of this, for the father standing quietly at her side, for the family she was leaving behind, for the version of herself she was still learning how to be. She had spent so long holding everyone else together that she barely knew the shape of her own life without someone else's weight pressing down on it. But she was standing up. Her heart was beating, and for the first time since she could remember, it was beating for no one but herself. She looked at Ethan. He was watching her with that patient expression of his, not rushing her, not filling the silence, just there. Present. The way he had been outside that glass door every night when she did not even know to look for him. "What now?" she asked. He considered it, then simply, "Whatever you want." Alara looked out at the street ahead of them. At the ordinary, wide-open world waiting on the other side of those hospital doors. And for the first time in a very long time, that did not feel like a terrifying question. It felt like the beginning of an answer.